laughing uncontrollably. What a pity, she said, suddenly sounding a bit regretful, her gaze sweeping over Su Yunjo's handsome yet youthful face. I'm graduating this year, and soon I won't be around to look after you anymore. How about this, Xiao Zhozhou, before I leave? Why don't we have a campus romance that ends with graduation? I promise it'll be a memorable experience. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice, her warm breath brushing against his flushed ear. At that time, Su Yunzhou was just a freshman. Aside from a few stolen kisses promised in secret, he had never experienced such a bold move of being playfully trapped like this. Instantly, he turned red, retreating 3 steps. Sister, don't joke like that. His voice cracked, and he hurriedly fixed his disheveled hair and collar, avoiding eye contact. Ha! Look at you, so timid. Still so easy to tease. When she laughed so hard she couldn't stand straight, pointing at him. Alright, I won't tease you anymore. Let us go, you cowardly junior. I'll show some kindness and take you to your dorm. Which building? No, it's fine, sister I can manage by myself. Su Yunzhou tried to reclaim his suitcase, his fingers trembling. Stop with the nonsense, why be polite with me? When she raised her chin, exuding an air of confidence and dominance as she effortlessly lifted his heavy suitcase. Show me the way, otherwise, I'll carry you over. Do you believe it? He believed it too much. After all, he had been carried like a sack by her many times when they were kids. Su Yunzhou quickly gave in, swallowing hard and obediently pointing the direction. Later, when she was indeed busy in her senior year, facing the pressures of internships, graduation theses, and job hunting that weighed down on every fresh graduate. Although they attended the same university, one was busy with no time to spare, while the other was newly enrolled and full of excitement from club activities. Their encounters became rare. Occasionally, they could meet for a meal, usually at the school cafeteria or nearby inexpensive eateries. Let's chat, catch up on recent happenings, and reminisce about the chaotic days of our childhood. However, between the two of them, there was ultimately no spark, at least not from Su Yunzhua's side. During his youthful, naive days, the girl who squatted down in the sunset to gently brush away the sand and blood from his knees, Song Jiru, had already cast the first and deepest hazy longing and affection for his ideal woman in the lake of his budding feelings. She was like a beam of moonlight, an unattainable dream. On the other hand, someone like Wen Shi, a bold and vibrant flower, was passionate, flamboyant, and aggressive, akin to the midday sun in summer, radiant and blinding, making him instinctively want to retreat into the shade. He felt a bit intimidated by her. Later on, he heard that when she had excelled in her studies and achieved impressive results in her physical assessments, successfully landing a position in the public sector, specifically in the National Security Agency, where she became a proud security officer. However, her initial assignment was in a remote grassroots town over 100 kilometers away, which was considered a necessary exercise and opportunity for growth. The night before she left school, Su Yunzhou specially treated her to a farewell dinner. At the table, she still wore a bright smile, drank heartily, and patted his shoulder, saying that if he ever encountered trouble at school, he should just call her name. Though she might not be there, her connections would still help him out. Su Yunzhou nodded with a smile, but deep down, he knew that their life paths would likely diverge from that moment on. What he never expected was that their next meeting would be an utterly mortifying scene that made him wish he could dig a hole and disappear. It happened during his sophomore year, shortly after he officially started dating Su Qianran. One weekend, overwhelmed by youthful hormones and romantic impulses, they mustered the courage to secretly book a room at a relatively clean motel near the school. With a mix of nervousness, excitement, shyness, and a desire to explore the unknown, they prepared to take that final step, completing a sort of rite of passage from adolescence to adulthood. Just as they had removed half of their clothes and the atmosphere was reaching its peak of intimacy, there came a loud, impatient knock on the door. A serious female voice called out from outside, "Inspection by the security agency. Open the door." At that moment, Su Yunzhua's mind went blank, filled only with thoughts of being caught and facing consequences. He fumbled to put on his pants, searched for his t-shirt, and even misbuttoned his shirt in his haste. When the door opened, a security officer in a crisp uniform stood outside, her hat pulled low. In the dim light of the hallway, as she lifted her head, Su Yunzhua's blood ran cold. It was when she first glanced at the disarray and the disheveled pair inside the room, then spoke in a businesslike manner. Her tone devoid of any emotion. "University students? Identification." Su Yunzhua hurriedly handed over his student ID. When she took it, examined it carefully, and then began to lecture them expressionlessly. Her words were nothing more than generic reminders for university students to maintain their personal integrity, pay attention to safety, obey laws and regulations, and cherish their time in school. Throughout this process, Su Yunzhua was so embarrassed that he could have scratched out a 3-bedroom apartment on the cheap carpet of the motel with his toes. Finally, Wenxi lifted her chin, her gaze fixed on Su Qianran, her tone even colder. "Where's your student ID? Haven't found it yet?" "No, I left it in the dorm." Su Qianran's voice was barely audible, laced with a hint of tears, her head lowered even further. "Left it?" Wenxi frowned, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. "According to the rules, identity verification is required. Go back and get it. Now, immediately." At that moment, both Su Yunzhua and Su Qianran were too young, with almost no social experience. They were stunned by the sudden official inspection, and coupled with their guilty conscience, they completely failed to realize something was amiss. How could a security officer come alone to check a room, and only theirs? Su Qianran felt as if she had been granted a reprieve, and without thinking much, she hurriedly squeezed past Wenxi and ran away, not even daring to look back at Su Yunzhua. The door closed. Su Yunzhua scratched his head awkwardly. "Sister this is quite a coincidence, don't you think?" Then he heard a faint click of the lock. Su Yunzhua froze, seeing Wenxi turn around and lock the door, then stepped toward him, one deliberate step at a time. The uniform accentuated her tall and athletic figure, each step exuding a predator-like sense of pressure. Before Su Yunjua could react, Wensi had already pushed him down onto the unmade bed. She leaned over him, her eyes holding a teasing glint. Su Yunjua? Is this all you've got? Su Yunjua's mind went blank. The next moment, Wensi grasped his chin. Stunned, he stammered. Sister Shi, please don't do this. You're breaking the law. Wensi smirked. Oh, sorry, but there are no laws against females assaulting males in this country. Besides, do you have the guts to report it? Thus, although Su Yunjua protested and struggled, it was utterly futile against Wensi's overwhelming strength, skill, and presence. Just as he was about to resign himself to the situation, he suddenly felt Wensi tremble as if all her strength had been drained in an instant. She let out a muffled groan, and her arm that had been pinning him down suddenly relaxed, her body rolling uncontrollably to the side, collapsing onto the bed. Chapter 151. Have you missed your sister these years? Su Yunjua's mind couldn't comprehend what had just happened. How did the sister who had seemed like a furious lioness just moments ago suddenly collapse? Sister Shi, are you okay? He quickly scrambled up, looking helplessly at Wensi curled up at the edge of the bed, seemingly in pain. Is something wrong? Heart, stomach pain, or low blood sugar? His voice was frantic, and countless possibilities flashed through his mind. I'll call for help. Just hold on. No, don't. Wensi gritted her teeth, raising a hand to signal him to stay still. After a while, the sudden, strange weakness gradually faded, and some color returned to her face. She opened her eyes and gave Su Yunjua a complex look, filled with concern and confusion. Looks like you're lucky today. She propped herself up on the bed, her tone filled with reluctance. But remember this, she said, extending her hand into the air and making a forceful gesture, as if trying to crush something tightly. Her eyes glinting dangerously. You can't escape my grasp. It's only a matter of time. Su Yunzhou felt a shiver run down his spine at that suggestive and threatening motion, his back growing cold. Oh no, Sister Shi is terrifying. She's 1,000 times scarier than when she used to snatch my toys and make me cry as a kid. A firm yet naive thought sprang up in his startled mind. I need to quickly solidify my relationship with Su Qianran. If we establish our bond, she'll give up on this for good. After that, Su Yunzhou and when she never crossed paths again. It was as if that absurd and bizarre hotel incident had been nothing more than a strange dream. Occasionally, through news snippets or casual chats with old classmates, he heard increasingly legendary tales about her, when she, within the Citizen Security Agency, seemed to have a cheat code, solving bizarre cases, cold cases, and long-standing mysteries. Receiving countless accolades and rapidly climbing the ranks, it was said that she relied on her exceptional logical reasoning, bold and almost reckless decisiveness, and some instincts or inspirations that her colleagues privately deemed unfathomable. These traits led her to be promoted beyond her years, becoming the chief expert in the Criminal Investigation Department of the Citizen Security Agency, earning her the nicknames Queen of Criminal Investigation or Walking Solving Machine. She was also categorized as a special talent requiring protection and attention within the system. Her daily outings were tightly secured, dealing with highly confidential or significant difficult cases, making her a legendary figure that ordinary citizens, and even most people within the system, found hard to reach or imagine. Su Yunzhou occasionally thought back to that chaotic, awkward, and heavily taboo night when he saw her name on a computer screen or watched certain crime dramas, his emotions complex and unspoken. Now, seeing the name when she again, and recalling her later remarkable career, he suddenly understood. So, it was because of me that Sister Shi's life took off. During that hotel incident in our sophomore year, she was about to take me down, but at the last moment, she backed off. Wow, that must have been me from the future influencing her. Just like when Shin Mingwei tried to push me in the bathroom yesterday. Damn, the mystery that had troubled me for years has finally been solved. Wait, am I jealous of my past self? That is so typical of me. I need to mess with my sophomore self as plans. Why should that past brat get the upper hand? He confirmed it, utterly bemused. But clearly, this wasn't the time to delve into those thoughts. The countdown was still on. He needed to leave a message for Su Nua. His fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment as he pondered. Then he typed a line infused with his unique style, wanting to comfort yet unable to resist a playful jab. Nua, keep the light steady, do your best, and don't embarrass the teacher. He paused for a moment and added with a mischievous smile, 8 years from now, by the West Lake, I'll be waiting for you, teacher. Su Yunzhou imagined that at this moment, Su Nua was kneeling in the ancestral hall, crying her heart out, utterly devastated, and suddenly wondered how she would react to such an irreverent promise. Just picturing that scene made him chuckle, momentarily alleviating the headache and embarrassment brought on by the name when she. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Su Yunzhou instinctively glanced at the bottom right corner of his computer screen, exactly 10 o'clock. Not a second off. Had someone been timing this outside? He adjusted his clothes and casually ran his fingers through his hair, wanting to make a good impression on Su Nua, whom he hadn't seen in years. However, when the door opened, he was taken aback. It wasn't Su Nua. Standing outside was a tall figure exuding a commanding presence. It was when she, at 29. Time seemed to have favored her, shedding the youthful exuberance from her college days, leaving behind a polished brightness forged through experience. Her already beautiful face had sharper and more defined features. She was dressed in a black leather jacket, not a fashionable decorative style, but rather practical, resembling that of special operations or field personnel, accentuating her tall and athletic figure. The zipper of her jacket was not fully closed, revealing a simple dark gray tank top underneath, along with her distinct collarbone. What took Su Yunzhou's breath away was her height and aura. He remembered when she being tall, but now she seemed to exceed the 175 centimeters he recalled, possibly even reaching 178 centimeters. Coupled with her long legs wrapped in fitted leather pants and ankle boots, she stood at the door, blocking out much of the light. casting a shadow that completely enveloped Su Yunzhou. It was a dual pressure, both physical and psychological. Years had passed, and the once playful sister she had evolved into a complete queen. But why was she here? What was this unexpected development? Was it the future version of him who informed her of this time and place? Did he think it wasn't chaotic enough? Wasn't it better to have a nice date with little Nuanua? Why provoke this formidable woman? Had he been influenced and swayed by her during the process? Before he could speak, when she had already taken action, she seemed to require no invitation from Su Yunzhou, stepping directly into the room as if it were her own home. Then, she casually kicked the door shut behind her with her heel. Bang! The door closed with a decisive sound. In the next moment, she reached out and firmly grasped Su Yunzhou's chin. Junior, long time no see. She paused and leaned closer. Have you missed your sister these past few years? Chapter 152. The king does not see the king. Su Yunzhou's mind raced at that moment, quickly analyzing various possibilities. At this time, when she was 29, a successful queen of criminal investigation. According to game logic and the previous situations involving Su Nuwa and others, she should now be in a completed state of development. In her perception, I should be the one who has existed in various forms over the past few years, be it a guiding spirit, a system, a mysterious mentor, or something else, leading her to solve cases, enhance her abilities, and perhaps occasionally teasing her as a teacher or master. Now she has come to meet me after my departure, and with some sort of, strong and ambiguous intention. In a flash, Su Yunzhou made a core judgment. Stay calm. Don't panic. I am now the successful man helping her, not the little one she used to bully. So he slightly tilted his head, skillfully moving his chin away from her fingertip. When she's fingers paused in midair, a fleeting look of surprise flashed in her eyes, quickly replaced by intense interest and a certain eager glint. Almost in the same instant, when she made her move without warning, it wasn't playful teasing, but rather swift, precise, and clearly marked with combat techniques. Launching a fierce attack targeting Su Yunzhou's neck and shoulder joints. The movement was as fast as lightning, evidently honed through years of practical experience. Her skills remarkably solid. Su Yunzhou's pupils contracted, his body instinctively reacting faster than his thoughts. He shifted his footwork, narrowly avoiding a chokehold, while simultaneously blocking and countering her grip with deft strength. The movements were smooth and natural, as if practiced 1,000 times. This was certainly from the promised scenarios, especially from using the Combat Master experience cards a few times. Training him for life and death situations, his awareness already at elite special forces level, though his physical attributes still lagged behind. Bang! Clap! Thud! In the living room, their figures intertwined, fists and feet cutting through the air, yet they mysteriously controlled their strength, not knocking over any furniture, only the sounds of fabric rubbing and body collisions, along with occasional subtle cracking sounds as their joints clashed. A silent and thrilling close-quarters combat suddenly erupted in the small space, quickly nearing its end. Wen Shi's moves were fierce and straightforward, embodying the simplicity and efficiency of a combat style. But Su Yunzhou recognized at a glance that this technique must have been taught to her by him in the future. His responses, however, were even more unpredictable. With agile footwork and skillful timing that was astonishingly precise, seemingly always able to anticipate her next move, occasionally employing joint techniques and grappling methods reminiscent of traditional martial arts. Exquisitely executed. The final move. Su Yunzhou seized a subtle gap in Wen Shi's forced transition, slipping into her side like a swimming fish. One hand grasping her wrist while the other swiftly locked onto her shoulder joint, using his core strength to cleverly twist and push. Wen Shi let out a muffled sound, her body involuntarily being guided by this clever force. Losing balance as he twisted her arm from the side and pressed her down onto the wide sofa. Su Yunzhou knelt beside her, firmly controlling her joints, pinning her in a position that was extremely awkward yet powerless to resist. The action was clean and decisive. The outcome was clear. Su Yunzhou took a slight breath, looking at Wen Shi, who was unable to break free, and chuckled. Sister Shi, have you become weaker after not seeing you for years? When she found her vital points restrained and her joints controlled, unable to muster the strength to break free for a moment, she tilted her head, her cheeks sinking into the soft sofa cushion, yet she smiled. Your skills have improved quite a bit. It's a far cry from that sophomore year when you were just a trembling, helpless little brother on a hotel bed. Upon hearing the word sophomore year, helpless, and little brother, Su Yunzhou's eyebrows twitched uncontrollably, and the painful memories of that past resurfaced. What's wrong? Are you not going to let go? Want to see how long I can maintain this position? Or do you enjoy watching me kneel like this? Su Yunzhou released his grip, stepped back to create some distance. His expression neutral, and his tone devoid of any discernible emotion. Officer Wen, to what do I owe the pleasure? When she slowly sat up from the sofa, stretching her slightly sore wrist and shoulder, maintaining her composure. She even casually picked up the half-finished glass of water Su Yunzhou had left on the coffee table and took a sip. What am I here for? Didn't you invite me? She raised an eyebrow and reminded him leisurely. According to your words, the warm reminder you left when your legal entity departed from me. Asked me to come find you today. She mimicked a possibly sarcastic tone. You said you'd tame me well, showing me that a master is always a master. When she concluded, her gaze fixed on Su Yunzhou. Well, you clearly weren't exaggerating. Su Yunzhou fell silent. This statement was likely half true, half false. Given his understanding of his own future temperament, it's possible he had said something similar to encourage her or purely out of mischief during her training. However, he absolutely could not let her come today, let alone appear in this manner at such a time. Today was a special day when he planned to potentially intersect with Su Nuwa in reality, when Shi's sudden intrusion completely disrupted all his rhythms and plans. Once Su Yunzhou realized this, his tone became firm. Impossible. You must have the wrong time. He maintained a calm exterior while fabricating a story, knowing that according to the timeline, once he entered Wenxi's scenario and confirmed their agreement, anything he said now would become fact. I clearly told you it was next month. And the location is not here. It's in a certain city on the west coast. Humph, the further the better. Wenxi's eyes lit up. They were indeed the same person, and he knew about this agreement. This confirmation completely dissipated her last shred of doubt. She crossed her legs. Her long legs wrapped in leather pants appearing smooth and powerful, her posture relaxed and unrestrained. Isn't it that you're just too impatient? Su Yunzhou fought the urge to roll his eyes and try to keep his tone calm and distant. I have important business today and am waiting for a key friend. It's not convenient. He attempted to suggest she leave. Upon hearing this, Wenxi not only showed no intention of getting up, but instead chuckled. You're waiting for Su Nuo, right? Su Yunzhou's brows instantly furrowed. What the heck? She even knows this. Does she know Su Nuo? When? How did they meet? Several possibilities flashed through his mind. Right. Su Nuo is now the leader of a prominent overseas organization with a vast influence and an impressive intelligence network. Wenxi is the chief criminal investigation expert of a security agency, and it is entirely possible that their paths could cross in major cases involving transnational crime and foreign forces. In fact, it could even be that his future self arranged for their interaction. If she knows about the agreement between him and Su Nuo, that would explain a lot. Seeing Su Yunzhou's suddenly changed expression, Wenxi's smile grew even brighter. She won't come. Su Yunzhou was surprised by her certainty. Why not? Don't you understand the principle of not letting the king meet the king? With me here, how dare she show up? Su Yunzhou furrowed his brow, quickly grasping her meaning. Wenxi, as the chief expert of the Criminal Investigation Department of the National Security Agency, represented the state's law enforcement and order. Meanwhile, Su Nuo, a former assassin of a notorious organization, now held a significant position in an overseas Chinese gang, walking a fine line between gray and black territories in terms of identity, experience, and power. The two were inherently in a cat-and-mouse dynamic, making Su Nuo's choice to avoid confrontation seem quite natural. As Su Yunzhou understood this, a faint sense of disappointment unexpectedly rose from the depths of his heart. He did look forward to their first official reunion in reality. However, in the next moment, his agent-level insight and perception, honed from experiences with Su Nuo, sharply detected an extremely subtle disturbance on the balcony. It wasn't the wind. It was the faint rustle of fabric brushing against the railing, the rhythm of breath escaping despite extreme control, a familiar aura he recognized all too well. Su Yunzhou smiled, looking at the confident Wenxi across from him, calmly replying, "Oh, is that so? The king won't meet the king?" He tilted his head slightly, his gaze seemingly piercing through Wenxi toward the glass door of the balcony behind her, but she's already here. Chapter 153. The arrival of Nuo Yi. The moment Su Yunzhou's words fell, the floor-to-ceiling glass door leading from the living room to the open balcony was silently pushed ajar from the outside. Morning light poured into the room through the gap, casting a dazzling golden beam on the floor. In the light, dust particles danced. A figure in a pale blue traditional Chinese kung fu outfit stepped into the light. With a subtle, almost imperceptible smile on her face, her eyes were as clear as mountain spring water, yet unfathomably deep. It was Su Nuo. At 26, she was the youngest leader in the history of the overseas Chinese community, and those in the underworld referred to her respectfully as Nuo Yi. Su Yunzhou's breath caught for a moment. Although this was already the third time he had witnessed a character he had personally nurtured in that mysterious game step out of the screen and into his real world, the impact had not diminished with each occurrence, especially at this moment. His gaze involuntarily fell on Su Nuo's right wrist, which naturally swung as she walked. There. The pale blue cuffs slightly slipped down, revealing a slender, fair wrist adorned with a string of deep brown prayer beads. It was the same string of blessed beads that he had asked Su Xini to bring from the Bema Temple in Luoqing 8 years ago. Now, 8 years later, the beads still rested neatly on her wrist, their color deepened and their luster more subdued. Just like the girl before him, her features remained exquisite. And with the last traces of baby fat faded, her jawline was now sharper and more defined, her brows and eyes more elongated, adding an even more striking cold elegance than when she was 18. But what had truly changed was the essence emanating from her being. Simply standing there, she naturally exuded a calmness, confidence, and an almost inhuman tranquility forged through years of holding power and weathering storms. It seemed that the trials she had faced, the choices she had made, and the pressure she had borne in these 8 years were far beyond what most could imagine. Su Yunzhou felt a surge of complex emotions. It was somewhat akin to an old craftsman gazing at a piece of jade he had spent his life perfecting, now radiant and renowned. There was a sense of comfort and pride. Yet more so, there was pain and pity. Su Nuo walked straight up to Su Yunzhou, maintaining a distance of about 3 steps, neither too far nor too close, a distance that was respectful yet safe. She stood still, then raised both hands, forming a fist with her right, and placing her left palm over it, resting it on her chest. The gesture was elegant, so standard it seemed to be transcribed from an ancient book of rituals. Leaning slightly towards Su Yunzhou, she bowed her head. The movement was subtle yet exceptionally solemn. "Teacher," she began, her tone calm and serene, "long time no see." Su Yunzhou looked at her lowered head, with a glimpse of her fair neck, and resisted the impulse to ruffle her hair playfully. That would be too frivolous and inappropriate for the Su Nuo of today. A gentle smile appeared on his face. "Arno, you've grown up." Hearing the familiar name, Su Nuo involuntarily trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. It was him. It really was him. Even the gray Chinese-style suit he wore was exactly the same as the one from 8 years ago, the last time she had seen him. The style, the sheen of the fabric, even the tiny creases at the collar were all identical. Su Nua's effort to maintain a calm expression faltered in an instant. Time seemed to rush backward at that moment. It felt as if she was back in that narrow, cluttered loft of the Neon Happiness Manor. The teasing, guiding voice that had been her only light and faith through countless lonely nights echoed in her ears once again. She suddenly snapped back to reality and looked at Su Yunzhou once more. A thought surged uncontrollably into her mind. Had he really only worn this one outfit in the past 8 years? Was this what he occasionally referred to as enduring the worldly tribulations? He had bestowed upon her unimaginable wealth and power, allowing her to command respect overseas, while he himself lived so frugally that he couldn't even afford a new piece of clothing. The teacher suddenly felt a lump in her throat, a surge of hot tears unexpectedly welling up in her eyes, and her nose tinged with acidity. She instinctively wanted to step forward, just like the helpless girl who once curled up in a corner of the attic, seeking support and comfort, even if it was just him, like before, gently patting her head with that virtual, warm hand. But reason and the self-control cultivated over 8 years held her back from this impulse. Because beside her on the sofa sat another old acquaintance. Su Nua quickly concealed her emotions, restoring her calm demeanor. She offered Su Yunzhou a smile tinged with a hint of apology, then slowly turned around to face Wen Shi, who was sitting on the sofa with her arms crossed, a playful smile at the corner of her mouth. Although at 168 centimeters tall, she appeared somewhat petite against Wen Shi, who stood close to 180 centimeters with long legs. When she stood tall and slightly raised her chin, her eyes locking onto Wen Shi with a half-smile, the aura she exuded was surprisingly formidable, almost as if they were on equal footing. Shi Jia, Su Nua began, her voice still gentle, but her tone was laced with sharpness. What you said just now was rather presumptuous. Indeed, it's true that some things are better left unseen. She paused, her gaze meeting Wen Shi's in the air, an invisible spark seeming to crackle in the atmosphere. But it also depends on who needs to avoid whose brilliance. Her opening words were filled with an unreserved, direct intensity. When she suddenly laughed, Nuayi, don't blame me for not reminding you. This isn't overseas. This is within the territory of Daxia. She lightly tapped the armrest of the sofa, her gaze sharp. Divine beings must not tread here, and malevolent spirits should retreat. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to flaunt your power here, would it? Flaunt my power? Su Nua chuckled lightly. I can't bear to take such praise from you, Shi Jia. Over the past 3 years, the Xiang Gang had assisted the International Cooperation Department of relevant authorities in Daxia in combating cross-border telecom fraud groups 7 times, providing 19 key intelligence leads and helping rescue over 200 citizens stranded abroad. 3 of the core operations were personally commanded and coordinated by me, in synchronous support. She raised her eyes, looking at Wen Shi with clear sincerity. Just last month, a leader from a certain department in Jingzhou personally spoke with me, clearly expressing a welcome for my frequent visits. The homeland will always be my home, a stronghold for the Xiang Gang. Is visiting my teacher while I'm home for a family visit really flaunting my power? She shifted her tone, her smile slightly chilling. It seems, Shi Jia, whether I accidentally let something slip before, or if your reputation as a queen of criminal investigation is indeed well-deserved. You somehow managed to predict my visit today, and even got here first. She gently shook her head, almost sighing in admiration. As expected of you, in your presence. One must not be careless. Facing this impeccably crafted yet subtly sharp response, when she not only didn't get angry, but her interest only deepened. She did not address the doubts raised by Su Nuo regarding the leak of the itinerary, but instead changed the subject casually, as if discussing trivial matters. When talking about the cross-border joint operation from 2 years ago, she suddenly reached out and patted the solid outline of her right thigh wrapped in black leather pants. To cover your infiltration team's withdrawal, I attracted firepower at the flank of the firefight area. I took a bullet here and lay down for half a month. As she spoke, she even pretended to unfasten the metal buckle of her leather pants. The bullet was taken out, but the scar is still there. You heartless one. Not even a call to check on me afterward? This bold and abrupt action was full of her wildness and provocation. Humph, Su Nua let out a soft snort. And despite this almost rogue behavior, her expression remained calm, though her gaze turned colder. During that operation, a core undercover agent from our side, who had been lurking for 2 years, was exposed due to a last-minute change in the evacuation route, and has been missing ever since. Did you provide any assistance? The two locked eyes, and the air instantly dropped to a freezing point. Chapter 154. Su Lao on the side. Su Yunzhou was left dumbfounded, thinking to himself, wow, this information is too much. It turned out that these two had repeatedly worked together over the past few years on high-risk, high-profile operations against cross-border crime syndicates. The notorious electric fraud group of the 4 major families in that region, a case that shook the international community, was actually led by this duo of black and white forces. It sounded like they had a pretty good coordination, one striking openly while the other plotted in the shadows. But it seemed there were quite a few grudges built up. His mind even began to wander uncontrollably. If this plot were adapted for the big screen, it would definitely be a blockbuster hit. With 2 female leads, one dark and one light, one open and one hidden, both enemies and friends, loving and killing each other. The tension would be off the charts. The director should get the one who made Operation Black Sea, combining violent aesthetics with patriotism perfectly. The action scenes must be hard-hitting. Close combat should be sharp and realistic. The gunfights need a touch of old-school Hong Kong film romance and intensity, with bullets flying, slow-motion close-ups, and flapping clothes. As for the cast, let Shin Mingyue play Su Nuo, the cool and composed character, dressed in a moon-white kung fu outfit with dark prayer beads on her wrist. Killing with a smile, nailing the aura perfectly. As for Wen Shi, well, she should just play herself. That wild and untamed spirit. Very few actresses in the industry could handle it. The theme song should be sung by Song Jiru, and for the ending, A heartfelt monologue would be great. I've even thought of a movie title. War Eagle. Just that name alone would guarantee a box office start of at least $3 billion. Su Yunzhou was lost in thought. Increasingly convinced of his ideas, almost reaching for his phone to jot down a memo, seeing the two getting more intense, and noticing that when she had a ridiculous tendency to publicly unbuckle her pants to show her scars when things got heated. He quickly called for a stop. I'm still here. What are you unbuckling for? When she paused her action of unfastening the leather pants, lifted her eyes, and shot Su Yunzhou a look that seemed both amused and challenging, as if you haven't seen enough. Su Yunzhou's mind went blank for a moment. When have I seen it? I haven't wait. He suddenly realized. Whence he refers to my future self, the one who is like a personal grandfather beside her. In that state, seeing something might seem, perhaps, likely, not surprising at all. After all, the perspective follows, and one is not in control. But can this be said so bluntly, so ambiguously, so heart-wrenchingly? This is purely instigating discord, detonating a nuclear bomb. The impact is overwhelming. Su Nuo is still standing over there. Sure enough, Su Nuo, who had maintained a calm expression, suddenly stiffened his gaze. The air seemed to freeze. Whence he appeared quite pleased with the nuclear explosion effect caused by her words. Revealing a triumphant smile, she decided to drop the topic. All right, no more fussing. She waved her hand, looking at Su Yunzhou, and her tone became much more serious. Su Lao, I actually came today primarily for a favor. Su Lao? Su Yunzhou was momentarily confused. Wait, are you calling me? What kind of title is this? Is this your respectful way of addressing my system form? Truly a big shot who has made it in the system. This title carries weight, a sense of history, and authority all at once. It sounds much more impressive than titles like Big Brother, Tyrant, or God. Whence he ignored his subtle expression and continued. I have a case at hand that has been dragging on for nearly 2 months, and there are no leads at all. I've exhausted all conventional and unconventional methods, and I'm stuck. She looked at Su Yunzhou, and in her usually sharp eyes, there was a rare glimpse of clear expectation and perhaps reliance. I really have no other way, which is why I thought of seeking your help. You've been resting for so long, it's time to get your muscles moving. Can you help this useless disciple of yours? Su Yunzhou, when have I ever solved a case? I'm just a former programmer, now a homebody addicted to simulation games, who has only watched Detective Conan and read a few books by Higashino Kigo. The future me helping you solve cases would be easy. I could just read future news reports or case files to you. But now, with a completely new case that even you can't handle in front of me, how am I supposed to crack it? Am I supposed to generate power with love? That's the kind of thing only the most adorable and admirable readers do. He was internally complaining and raging, but on the surface, he had to maintain his composure and not show weakness. His persona could not collapse. The demeanor of Su Lao must be upheld. Well, forget it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Everything will be discussed after I clear Wenxi's side quest and obtain the complete future memory package. Maybe by then, it will come naturally. So, he pondered for a moment, adopting the calm demeanor expected of Su Lao, and slowly spoke. Sister Shi, unfortunately. Today I have 2 quite important personal matters to attend to, and my mind is not in a state for distractions. He glanced at Su Nuo, who was standing silently but radiating presence, and then at the wall clock. How about this? You compile the basic information about the case, excluding any confidential parts, and send it to me. I will give you a response tomorrow. Wenxi stared at him for a few seconds, nodded, and replied briskly. Okay. I will send the information to your email later. The situation seemed to have calmed down for the time being. Su Yunzhou secretly breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that the tense atmosphere needed to ease a bit. It was getting late, and lunchtime was approaching. There were a few nice restaurants by the West Lake with good views. He tried to lighten the mood. How about I take you 2 out for a meal? We can chat while eating, and it can be my way of welcoming you. He still thought it would be safer to change to a public place. With more people around, they probably wouldn't get into a fight at the dining table, right? However, when she shook her head decisively, she stood up, neatly adjusted her leather jacket, and returned to her composed and capable demeanor. I want to stay for the meal. You 2 haven't seen each other in a long time and must have a lot to talk about. I don't want to be a third wheel. As she spoke, she winked at Su Yunu, who responded with a calm and unruffled gaze. I have to get back to the office this afternoon for a case analysis meeting with some experts. There's a lot to do. Su Lao, see you tomorrow. With that, she opened the door and swiftly disappeared outside, just as decisively as she had arrived. The door gently clicked shut. The living room suddenly fell silent. The sunlight outside was just right, streaming through the glass and filling half the room. A gentle breeze from the West Lake stirred the off-white curtains, bringing with it the faint scent of the lake and the laughter of tourists. The world seemed to shift from an intense action movie scene to a calm and soothing art film setting in an instant. Su Yunu stood there, at the boundary of light and shadow. He didn't speak or move, just smiled quietly, focused on Su Yunju. Su Yunju suddenly felt the atmosphere had become a bit too subtle. What was she thinking? Reflecting on the past 8 years? Speculating on the true nature of his relationship with Wenxi? What should he say to her now? Recount old times? Ask her about her experiences overseas in the past few years? Or should he just dive straight in and hug her, fulfilling that parting promise? Coughing lightly, Su Yunju cleared his throat. He walked over to the tea cabinet, took out 2 transparent glass cups, and retrieved a can of Preaching Ming Longjing tea leaves. Please, sit down. You've been in Binzhou for a few days, right? It must have been tough. While pouring hot water into the cups, he discreetly observed Su Yunu's reaction from the corner of his eye. As the hot water filled the glass, white steam rose up, blurring his vision. Finally, Su Yunu moved. She walked over to the sofa and sat down, accepting the glass cup Su Yunju handed her, holding it with both hands. The warmth from the cup flushed her usually pale cheeks with a hint of pink. It's only right, she said softly, looking down at the tea leaves swirling in the cup. I've never dared to